or finished THX. I was looking for something to do before I was doing American Graffiti.
Did you know that years after Raiders of the Lost Ark debuted in 1981, critics and positive viewers still can't stop talking about the impact it has accrued over the years? With the passing of each new day, Steven Spielberg's movie seems not to have lost its relevance in the hearts of everyone, reinstating that some movies are evergreen. Nevertheless, if you did miss a scene or two, brace up and let's uncover 20 weird facts you didn't know about Raiders of the Lost Ark 1981. Number 1. Tom Selleck was supposed to be Indy.
Was there a role or a film or a series that was the one that got away?
Well, there's one everybody seems to know got away.
How do you feel getting to know for the first time that Tom Selleck was supposed to be cast as Indy? Oh well, you might just be wondering and surprised at the same time that someone else took his place. Here is the real gist. Before the production start date in the eve of 1980, Lucas and Spielberg entered an agreement and set up a shop in the old Lucasfilm corporate headquarters at Lankershim Boulevard in North Hollywood. The shop, as it were, was already a done deal, as they had planned to begin the casting process immediately with it. Actors and actresses in consideration for the lead roles of Indiana Jones and his challenging but beautiful companion Marion Ravenwood included Jane Seymour, Deborah Winger, Mark Harmon, Mary Steenburgen, Michael Biehn, Sam Shepard, Valerie Bertinelli, Bruce Boxleitner, Sean Young, Don Johnson, Dee Wallace, who would later go on to star as the mother in Spielberg's E.T., and Barbara Hershey. Also for Indy, Lucas and Spielberg settled on actor Tom Selleck. But when the news broke in the ears of CBS about what the duo were contemplating, the network went 10 steps ahead of them and barred Selleck, the lead of the hit show Magnum P.I., from making any appearance in the film. Without exaggeration, Spielberg suggested that Harrison Ford quickly replace him since he wouldn't default on their orders. At first, Lucas disagreed with him, but after several back and forths on the matter, Spielberg's suggestions prevailed, and Ford was added to the cast even though at the time he was Han Solo for his Star Wars films. Ford was later added 2 weeks before principal photography began, and that was how Selleck lost the role of Indy in the movie. Number 2. Marion Ravenwood's name was inspired by loved ones and locales.
It is desired above all treasures on earth by those who are good.
Marion Ravenwood, a notable character in Raiders of the Lost Ark, wasn't just an ordinary name, but one that resonated deeply with the story the movie was trying to portray. Marion, Lucas, and Spielberg agreed that young actress Karen Allen, who had previously appeared in National Lampoon's Animal House, was eligible for the role. She was a perfect match to them, and nothing would disrupt that plan. However, the name she would bear in the movie wasn't feasible then. Lucas and Spielberg made several deliberations until they stumbled upon an assortment of inspiration from screenwriter Lawrence Kasdan's life. Marion was Kasdan's wife's grandmother's name, while Ravenwood was coined from Ravenwood Court, a small street off North Beverly Glen Boulevard in Los Angeles that Kasdan drove on to get to the studio daily. Without exaggeration, the duo gave young Karen the name, to their greatest dismay. It became a historical artifact even to date. Number 3. Indiana Jones was conceived in far Hawaii.
But he's also annoying. I just have to say that.
Annoying how?
He's just funny, man. He's a funny man.
It may interest you to know that the lead character in the movie we celebrate today was an idea that was born in the most unimaginable place ever. Producer George Lucas first made known his ideas for Raiders of the Lost Ark to director Steven Spielberg when they were having a good time while on vacation in Hawaii in May 1977. Though it came at the oddest of hours, it went on to become an idea that transformed the movie into what it stands for today in Hollywood. After their discussion, Spielberg got away for the weekend from finishing up post-production on his now classic film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. At the same time, Lucas wanted to get as far away from his current location. Star Wars was making its debut that weekend, and he was terrified that the movie would bomb at the box office. However, contrary to his thought, the film broke the bank that weekend and would later become a worldwide sensation. On noticing this feat, both of them thought aloud that putting up something together wouldn't be a bad idea. While both were lounging on Mauna Kea Beach, Spielberg told Lucas that he had always longed to do a James Bond film. On that wise, Lucas laid out a timely idea for a swashbuckling throwback adventure movie based on Saturday matinee serials, which opened the gates for Raiders of the Lost Ark. Number 4. The boulder scene almost wasn't included as a scene at all. The scene that led many to fall in love with the movie, when a boulder nearly crushed Indy as he escaped from the temple with the idol in the opening, was always part of the original plan, but was not given an elaborate headstand. It was initially supposed to be a minor detail. Still, when production designer Norman Reynolds brought the 22-foot in diameter fiberglass boulder onto set, Spielberg was in awe of what he saw. Immediately, his brain went into action, and the idea of what could be added to make it a bigger scene played before him in a split second. Without letting it slip from his head, he extended the rolling boulder another 50 feet so it could become a significant part at the end of the thrilling scene. What an incredible scene it was. Number 5. Spielberg didn't have enough snakes in the Well of Souls.
That must have been full of hazards. This film, I've seen other clips from it. I haven't seen the movie yet.
What if I told you the famous snake scene that shaped the movie in a way wasn't initially scripted the way it appeared? On set, when shooting the scene where Indy and Sala descended into the Well of Souls to uncover the Ark, but found it completely covered in slithering wasps, the production originally had about 2,000 snakes at their disposal. At the time, it wasn't synonymous with what Spielberg had planned to achieve. He estimated that they would need at least 7,000 more snakes so that he could make it believably scary. With swift action, they began to search for ways to meet the intended action, raiding all the pet shops in London close to Elstree Studio, where they were shooting the film, and elsewhere in Europe where they had located. Fortunately for him, his search wasn't in vain, and a few days later they shot that scene again with 10,000 snakes, satisfying Spielberg's intense craving. Number 6. Everybody got sick except Spielberg.
I do stick figures and things. I can do perspectives. I can at least put depth in drawings, but I can't draw. And I'll give the sketch artist.
If you had witnessed the movie's shooting, it wouldn't be unusual to think Spielberg was from another planet. The film, which was shot in Tunisia, encountered many challenges, including the hellish conditions and the heat exhaustion that the crew too. Over 150 crew members got sick from food-based illnesses, but Spielberg was never in the equation. It just seemed like he was on superpowers because what? The director wisely drank only boiled water and ate canned food from the UK that he brought in a steamer trunk that he kept in his hotel room. This strategy bailed him out countless times from failing health, and he kept frolicking his way through the shoot. However, despite his improved immune system and health stability, he still asserted that his time in Tunisia was one of his worst experiences. Even though he managed to pull through, it didn't come without a difficult price. Number 7. The scene between Balok and Marion in his tent was improvised.
With a really relaxed and cool person, and it was just great fun the whole time.
Of course, Karen as well. We had a recent chat to her.
Sometimes it isn't easy to believe that many of the scenes that keep rolling in several movies weren't scripted, but happened instantaneously. The portion of the script where Marion shed her conservative Egyptian garb and donned a revealing dress to heighten the tension when she and Indy are fending off snakes as they are sealed in the Well of Souls came off timely. However, the one that included why she ended up in the dress wasn't part of the original design. It came off after several factors were checkmated. To get her into the dress, Alan and actor Paul Freeman, who plays Balak, did something out of this world as viewed by critics and viewers. They improvised the scene where she hides a knife in the old clothes she takes off to try to seduce Balak and escape, thus giving her character a plausible reason to be in the dress. Alan pondered for a while and thought it would make more sense to call back to the drinking game scene that introduced her character at the beginning of the movie. Though this was improvised on set, it didn't take away from the movie's genuineness. Instead, it added more fire. Number 8. Spielberg recycled a gag from his previous film, 1941, and included it in Raiders.
Ford for the first time. Karen Allen, John Rhys-Davies, Paul Freeman. My God, I just have one.
You can never tell how many scenes may have been repeated in some of the timeless movies that hit the box office, and not many producers would have the guts to let go of that secret. Nevertheless, Raiders of the Lost Ark, produced by Steven Spielberg, may have some similarities with other movies you didn't know existed. The scene where the devious Gestapo officer Todt interrupts Marion and Balak and displays what the two characters think is a torture device, only to have it revealed as a simple coat hanger, was a gag Spielberg intended to use in his film 1941. It was already a done deal before the unexpected interruption of that process. In that film, a Nazi officer played by actor Christopher Lee planned to interrogate an American country bumpkin played by Slim Pickens, who inadvertently ends up on a Japanese sub and produces the would-be torture device only to reveal the hanger. Test audiences did find it funny but did not find it necessary, so it was cut and removed from the movie. However, in the mind of Spielberg, it was still alive as he wanted it to be, so he tried it again in Raiders with a more sinister tone, and this time it worked perfectly. Just so you should know, gags weren't the only things recycled in the movie. The Nazi sub used in the movie was rented from the production of director Wolfgang Petersen's film Das Boot because it allowed them to cut costs. Number 9. It took days to get the monkey to deliver a Nazi salute.
But it is not a descriptor of his character.
An archaeologist who, on one hand, was kind of a treasure hunter.
Viewers need to give producers and directors their flowers for the stress they go through in putting every innovation to work, and honestly, Raiders of the Lost Ark is a good place to start. Do you know the insert scene where the small capuchin monkey gives the Nazi salute to the German spies was part of the film's post-production pickup schedule, and allotted time to reshoot or tweak scenes from the principal production shoot supervised by George Lucas at Elstree Studio in London? That was already in the movie's DNA. But to everyone's surprise, it didn't work as quickly as they had thought. Despite the animal trainers training the monkey to perform the move before the shoot, they couldn't get the monkey to do it in a take. Trials upon trials were instigated, but they fell on dead ends. Days passed, weeks passed, but no result could bail them out of the frustrations. Finally, a suggestion was made to dangle grapes with a fishing line just off camera to provoke the monkey. And that was how they got the little actor to do a good take. The final shot in the film is the monkey reaching for the just above the frame. This must have been a serious battle for the producers. Nevertheless, they pulled through. Number 10. Indy can hold his breath for a long time because of an edit.
The Continental Divide, and I had Universal purchase the script for me when I had ample entertainment.
Tricks are standard in movies, however, not every trick is discernible until given a clue. Looking at Indy's water scene, that gesture might have blown you away, but here is the thing. Fans have been wondering for a long time how Indy managed to swim from the steamer ship to the Nazi submarine and then survive the trip to the secret island where the ceremony with the Ark takes place. Worry no more. The answer is that he could hold his breath for a very, very long time, but a deleted scene from the film gives a better, if not implausible, answer. It confirms all your doubts about how he managed to win viewers' hearts just by that singular act. The scene shows Indy clutching the periscope of the Nazi sub that is conveniently above the water for the entire trip to the secret island, which explains how he managed not to drown. So it was a stunt pull to make you believe every scene while enjoying every bit of the movie. However, Spielberg was overwhelmed by several thoughts and felt the scene looked cheesy and scrapped it, hoping that audiences wouldn't question the unresolved logistics considering the fantastical elements that would happen in the film's climax. Still, viewers' logical stances weren't disfigured. Number 11. One dog inspired both Indiana Jones and Chewbacca.
About the time I was doing THX, or finished THX,
As fondly said, inspiration can come from anywhere, especially when the urgency is at its peak. And when it comes to movies, anything can happen. You can never say never. The Steven Spielberg movie Raiders of the Lost Ark drew some inspiration from a weird source. While the film was developing, Lucas named the main character Indiana Smith, without first seeking the opinion of Spielberg and screenwriter Lawrence Kasdan. To his greatest surprise, Spielberg protested that it was too similar to the 1966 Steve McQueen Western Nevada Smith and requested a change. They came together, deliberated for a moment, and agreed that the last name should be as universal and not nondescript as Smith. So Lucas threw out Jones as a possibility. The name Indiana came amazingly from Lucas's dog, an Alaskan Malamute named Indiana. The big hairy pup was also the inspiration for Chewbacca from Star Wars. In the world of movies, nothing is impossible. Number 12, a dentist came up with the film's MacGuffin. If asked how the film's MacGuffin came about, you might go off track if not put on course. But just so you know, are you aware that in Raiders of the Lost Ark, a dentist played a significant role, if not more? Way back in 1973, when Lucas was still cooking up his galaxy far, far away, he was also coming up with nascent ideas for Indiana Jones. Then he met fellow filmmaker Philip Kaufman, and they got together really quickly. For 2 weeks, they discussed concepts about archaeology and the Nazi obsession with the occult for a potential movie. Still, Kaufman departed the project soon after he started because Clint Eastwood hired him to develop the outlaw Josie Wales. Though the final film bears no striking resemblance to what the two began with, Kaufman still deserved honor in Raiders because he was responsible for the film's main plot point, the Ark of the Covenant. Both were looking for a mystical plot device to move the story along. Kaufman suggested the Ark because his childhood dentist had mentioned the mystery and the story surrounding the biblical artifact and its powers. Ever since it stuck in his mind, he did that without hesitation when he found a place to unleash it. Kaufman is truly a friend indeed. Number 13. Many of the film's set pieces were made as miniatures during pre-production.
Here's the script, go away and read it. And I sat in the front office and read the script. Plainly a wonderful.
Creativity is the best part of a movie, and it was seen time and again in the shooting of this movie. The best part was that everything was done to suit the intended purpose. To shoot fast and stay on budget, many of the film's elaborate set pieces were created in a studio during the film's 6-month pre-production as room-sized scale miniatures by production designer Norman Reynolds. It was one of the most innovative processes in the movie, and amazingly, it came out as expected. Spielberg blocked out all of the shots for the Well of Souls, the Egyptian marketplace, the Tanis dig, and the final canyon scene with the Ark before getting on set so they could expedite the process and film seemingly off the cuff, similar to the shooting method of the old serials that inspired Raiders. This was a significant breakthrough for the producer and the director. The time it would have taken to film all of those scenes was minimized, and at the same time, it was cost-friendly. Number 14, it took some female spiders to make an early scene work. In movies, creativity is allowed not just on a minimal level, but to the highest extent. Do you know it took some female spiders to make an early scene work? Here is how it all played out. While shooting the scene where Indy and his companion Satipo carefully pass body traps to get a hidden golden idol, some other co-stars nearly ruined everything. But after several attempts, it was accurately achieved. In the scene, Satipo stops in his tracks to shoo away a few tarantulas that crawl up Indy's back, causing Indy to make Satipo turn around and reveal his entire back covered in dozens of giant tarantulas. But contrary to what Spielberg had wanted, the tarantulas remained still. He had wanted the tarantulas to be crawling over Molina. He asked a few questions, hoping to get answers about why they weren't moving. The animal wranglers informed Spielberg that the stillness was because the whole tarantulas on Molina's back were males, so they weren't acting aggressively. When he gave the orders to involve a male and a female on Molina's back, the male tarantulas were thrown into disarray, and with one setting, they achieved their intended result. Number 15. Indy didn't shoot first according to the script. Sometimes circumstances can lead to a scene that was not in an original script, and most times it turns out to be good. The famously improvised scene where Indy simply shoots the sinister-looking swordsman in the middle of the Egyptian bazaar was born out of hellish shooting conditions. It forced them to do something they were unprepared for because of unforeseen challenges. The daily temperature in Tunisia, where they shot the scenes, averaged over 100 degrees. As initially planned, the scene included an elaborate gag involving Indy, the swordsman, and a nearby butcher. The swordsman was to chase Indy through the bazaar, and just as he was about to cut down the archaeologist with a death blow, Indy ducks, causing the swordsman to mistakenly and conveniently chop the meat at the butcher's shop, giving our hero enough time to get away. But after pondering through so many factors, they veered towards the path of safety, mainly because of health reasons. The gag was scrapped, leading to one of the film's best moments. But Lucas reportedly wasn't a fan. He tried to convince them, but all efforts were brushed aside. He tested 2 versions of the film at the North Point Theater in San Francisco, the same place he first previewed Star Wars, and the audiences liked the version of the scene the way it was, so they kept it in. Number 16. A receptionist at Lucasfilm helped out with the film's special effects. In between movies, producers and directors have come to terms with the fact that surprises are imminent and are always willing to welcome one when they find it. Advanced CGI was still far off when Spielberg tasked the effects wizards at Industrial Light and Magic to create the otherworldly elements for his film after the fact. This was difficult, considering it would feature a flying ghost interacting with characters on screen. Karen Allen recalled it was the first time she'd ever had to act opposite something that wasn't there. To create the deadly specters that emerged from the Ark, ILM model maker Steve Gawley suspended small puppets with silk robes into a clouded water tank before a blue screen. This would require some level of intelligence and creativity. However, they found the key to the whole effect without fail. Since the desired effect was to allow puppeteers to shake the model back and forth in water to achieve the surreal flowing movement Spielberg wanted, the ILM guys found a receptionist from Lucasfilm and did the magic. They made a white outfit of long robes, painted her face a ghostly shade of blue and white, and then had her sit on a flat trapeze mechanism in front of a blue screen and swing away from the camera, which was run backwards in the final film to achieve a dreamlike quality. The receptionist's performance was then composited with a grotesque skeletal model to create the final transformation.